Good afternoon and welcome to today's SpaceX 3 post-launch news conference. After the launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon, we wanted to get together and talk about how well the day went. We are pleased today to be joined first by Elon Musk, the Chief Executive Officer and founder of SpaceX, NASA's Associate Administrator for Human Exploration and Operations Mission Directorate, Bill Gerstenmaier, and Hans Koenigsmann, the SpaceX Vice President of Mission Assurance. And we'll begin with opening remarks. First, we'll start in California with Mr. Musk. Go ahead, please.
Sure. So it looks like everything looks great as far as the ascent phase of the mission, and so the rocket flight was as perfect as far as we could tell, and Dragon deploy went well. We had some slight initial challenges with Dragon, but with respect to enabling some of the thruster quads, but those have been resolved. So it looks like everything's good on the Dragon front. For the rocket boost stage reentry, we have good data down to pretty low level to roughly around Mach 1.1. Everything looks fine, and we're awaiting additional data to see how the potential landing burn went. But it was a very heavy sea state condition, so I wouldn't give high odds that the rocket was able to splash down successfully.
Okay, Mr. Gerstenmaier.
Thanks, Mike. Again, I'd like to congratulate the SpaceX team on a tremendous launch today. They did a lot of great work last night getting ready to get the rocket ready to go fly. With the weather conditions, it was kind of sporty for them to figure out exactly when the right time to load the vehicle and get it ready and keep options open. And they just did a tremendous job. I would say the entire NASA payloads team, as well as the SpaceX team, did a tremendous job of getting ready to do the late load. They did it early, so then that allowed them the option of picking the right time to roll out with all the Phase 2 lightning warnings that were coming and going throughout the night. So thanks to their efforts, we got a launch attempt today, and the weather happened to be good at lunchtime, and we got a good launch. So again, congratulations to the SpaceX team for showing that can-do attitude and going that extra mile to really work hard to get things ready. On board Space Station, we're ready for the Dragon arrival. The crew actually reported and talked to Mike a little bit and said they actually got to see the launch, so that's pretty exciting when our crew gets to see the launch out of Florida, so that was encouraging. The multiplexer on board Space Station, the repairs of that spare device are ready, so we're ready for the EVA next week to go change that external MDM. So we're looking forward to all the research coming up on Dragon. Tremendous things. We got to see nice video of the two payloads in the trunk. Got to see the HDEV and the optical communication package in the trunk. It's pretty cool seeing those on orbit, seeing them in the trunk, and it'll be really exciting to see them on station and actually operating and bringing data back to us. So I look forward to all this research that's going on in station. The crews are doing a great job. Things are going well. And I really want to congratulate the SpaceX team for just a wonderful day today, getting ready and keeping options open. They did really, really great. So thank you. Hans?
Yeah, both teams, both here at the Cape and back in Hawthorne, worked very hard over the last couple of days to get the vehicle ready. And then last night, of course, we had to deal with weather mostly today. Weather was our primary concern. Everything worked very beautiful in the end. We got a beautiful launch, and we got some really pretty video from orbit. It's really a good day.
Okay, thank you. We'll take questions now, and because we have Mr. Musk on the phone, we want to make sure that you address to whom your question goes. Please state your name and affiliation, and wait for the microphone. And let's start with Marcia Dunn.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press, probably for Mr. Musk. Sort of a light question. I'm wondering, I know SpaceX has the tradition of putting surprises and gifts on board. I'm wondering if there's anything in the way of chocolate, Easter eggs, bunnies, anything like that, given that you'll be arriving on Easter morning.
I don't know of anything. Hans, do we have anything on the? I mean, it's obviously NASA's our customer here, so I mean we deferred it to NASA as to what cargo is manifested. I don't think we put anything on board ourselves, but yeah.
And I don't know of anything. It's a surprise, and it'll be a surprise for all of us when they open the hatch.
But we were a little delayed in the launch, so it wasn't.
I have not been
yeah.
briefed of anything uniquely that's flying it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't something there. But I don't know the details of what the teams may have loaded.
Yeah.
I know the scientific cargo. I don't know the other personal.
So I'm sorry, nothing from SpaceX that you know of, Hans? Okay, fine.
Irene.
Thanks. Irene Klotz with Reuters for Elon. When you said that you give high odds that the rocket was able to splash down successfully, do you mean in one piece?
No, sorry, I wasn't speaking clearly. I said I wouldn't give high odds. So, the sea state is quite heavy. I mean, I heard reports of 15 to 20 foot wave height. So it's really pretty crazy out there. In fact, the boats weren't even able to get particularly close because of the heavy seas. So I think it's going to be it's unlikely that the rocket was able to splash down successfully. But I think we'll still get good data from the plane telemetry. And we should get that pretty soon. As soon as we are able to look at that data, we'll be able to provide some more information. But I would consider it a success in the sense that we were able to control the boost stage to a zero roll rate, which is previously what has destroyed the stage is an uncontrolled roll where the onboard nitrogen thrusters weren't able to overcome the aerodynamic torque, and so it sort of spun up. And this time with more powerful thrusters and more nitrogen propellant, we were able to null the roll rate. So that's a bit of good news there. And of course we were able to show that on ascent that the legs don't have any negative impact, and that we're able to come back through hypersonic velocity. We don't yet have the data through transonic, but we have it through the max dynamic. Max dynamic force coming through the what's called max Q. We have the information of the rocket making it through max Q. Okay, but I'm quite anxious, obviously, to find that out, and it would be awesome if as far as it gets, that data we'll be able to use and flow back into the next flight with an increased probability of a successful recovery. So we're going to have to probably iterate our way there, I think. I should mention one of the sort of side point is that we did a longer coast and restart of the upper stage. So this is a very sort of optional thing, just to see what our propellant residuals were and what the environments would be on the stage, during a depletion shutdown. And the upper stage coasted for about 35 minutes and then restarted for a few seconds and went to essentially zero liquid oxygen level with about 0.15% of propellant mass and fuel remaining, which is very close to our target. So that's helpful for us to essentially to reduce the uncertainty associated with propellant residuals and thus improve the mission performance margin calculation on future missions.
Rob.
Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. I guess for Elon, you mentioned having some challenges with the quads. Can you go into a little more detail? And I think you have a burn coming up pretty soon. Will you be doing that burn?
Well, I mean, right now I'm on the phone, so when I left about 15 minutes ago, everything was looking good. And there was kind of an isolation valve that feeds two of the thruster quads, and that valve was not responding. So we went to the backup valve, and that one worked fine. So when I left, everything was looking good for all thrusters enabled on the vehicle. So as far as I know, we're on track to make that burn.
Hi, Elon. This is Stephen Clark with Spaceflight Now. Just a question, looking ahead for the rest of the year with the trouble getting this rocket off over the last few weeks. Does this affect how many launches you plan for the rest of the year? I believe it was 10 total before this. And also the thruster pod issue, is it related at all to the issue you saw in CRS-2 last year? Thanks.
I think we think we can probably still do 10, but it's a bit too early to tell if all 10 will occur this year. The main constraint is actually on vehicle production, which it sort of boils down to this one particular part, which is an injector casting, and we think we've resolved that particular issue, which should unlock quite a high rate of booster production. So bottom line is that I think we will do 10 or something very close to 10 this year. So obviously it's a launch month, slightly better than a launch month. And then we don't yet know enough to say whether there's any commonality between this particular valve and the valve issue and the one that occurred previously. I don't think it's the same, but it's always one has to be careful about making snap judgments until one has all the information. So I don't think it's the same, but we don't yet know.
Okay, we're going to take one more question here before we go to the telephone bridge, and then we'll come back for follow-up questions. Bill.
Bill Harwood, CBS News for Mr. Musk. Technical stuff aside, I'm just wondering how you're feeling. This is the third CRS mission. It's off the ground to a good start. You've got a pretty good string going. What are your personal thoughts? I realize the mission's not over, but I mean at this point anyway. Thanks.
I'm feeling pretty excited, and this is a happy day. Most important of all is that that we did a good job for NASA. I always think that's the number one thing. Did we do a good job for our customer? So that's everything else is like secondary to that. So I'm just glad we're able to do the job we were contracted for, or at least thus far. I don't want to say it hasn't yet docked with the space station, but number one, I'm super happy that we have made good progress so far in for our NASA customer. So, and then on top of that, I'm also excited that we got good data through max dynamic pressure of the reentry of the boost stage. And even though we probably won't get the stage back, I think we're really starting to connect the dots of what's needed. When you combine the takeoff and landing yesterday of the flight design, landing legs, and the greater progress of the boost stage on this flight today, there's just only a few more dots that need to be there to have it all work. And I think I think we've got a decent chance of bringing a stage back this year, which would be wonderful. Because I think what we've done thus far is evolutionary, evolutionary improvements, but that holds the potential for something more significant.
All right, let's go to the telephone bridge and start off with Alan Boyle. Alan?
Hi, I guess this would be for Elon or Hans. Some people had remarked about a dark plume that rose up along the side of the rocket during launch. Was that any concern? What was going on with that? Thank you.
Elon, you want?
Hans, I know what happened, but Hans, do you want to?
I actually don't know either.
Okay.
I think I heard people say that.
Essentially, what happened is we splashed dirty water on ourselves. So it's a little embarrassing, but no harm done.
Okay, still on the phone, Dan Leone from Space News. Dan?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having the conference call. I guess one for NASA and one for SpaceX. Can we just get a sanity check about when rendezvous and proximity operations are supposed to start from NASA, and sort of a big picture question on reusability. How far down the road, as far as doing some back of the napkin calculations, have you gotten to see whether the cheapest way to increase launch rates and have inexpensive launches is really to fly stages back, refurb them, refuel them, and send them back up, versus maybe just trying to make a dent in the manufacturing side or something like this?
I'll start off with the rendezvous question. Basically, the burn got delayed a little bit. The burn actually wasn't required, but it won't affect the overall rendezvous sequence. It'll still be on Sunday pretty much as it's planned. There may be a couple minutes of movement, but not very much. It's really set on lighting conditions, so all the rendezvous stuff that we had planned will be pretty much as it's been published pre-flight. This is just some minor changes, and you'll see those through the press kits.
So, do you want me to answer the question about what is reflight likely to do?
Just to give it context, for example, parts of the shuttle were reusable, and the shuttle was impressive, although I don't think anyone would argue that it was particularly inexpensive.
True. So there is a step beyond simply reusing something that is important, or some conditions on reuse in order to make the reuse have a big effect on the space industry, which is that the reuse must be both rapid and complete, like an aircraft or a car or something like that. If you have to disassemble and reassemble a car and change a bunch of parts in between driving, it would make it quite expensive. So we don't. It's true that we don't just have to recover it. We have to show that it can be reflown quickly and easily with the only thing changing being reloading propellant and other basically the equivalent of refueling. So the vehicle is sort of designed for that. The unfortunate thing with the shuttle was that the original design for the shuttle was fairly well suited for a good reuse, but then the requirements changed and made it very difficult to reuse efficiently. So as long as we were able to hold to our requirements, I think we will be able to achieve the rapid and essentially complete reuse. So what I'm hoping will occur is, and I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about it, is that this year at least we will recover the rocket booster. I'm not sure we'll be able to refly it this year, but I think reflying it next year is likely if we recover it this year, and then that'll complete the picture, at least as far as the boost stage is concerned.
Okay, our next question is from Michael Belfiore.
Hi there. Question for Elon. I'm wondering how far downrange the deal was made cut off, and how far downrange from the Cape on re-entry.
Sorry, but it was a bit hard to hear you. I think you said how far downrange. I don't actually know the exact number. I think it's about 400 or 500 kilometers downrange, away from the Cape, essentially. And then the nearest shore is, I think, 200 or 300 kilometers.
And that's at main engine cutoff or re-entry, or both?
That's sort of the nominal splashdown point, which it was headed for. I should mention that it was headed quite precisely for the target splashdown point. So that's yeah.
Okay, the next question is from Rand Simberg. Rand?
Straight in.
In a few minutes, just to head back to the control room because hopefully we'll have the aircraft telemetry that I'd like to look at. So I'll just be on for another 2 minutes or so.
Okay, let's try Miriam Kramer. Miriam?
Hey, Miriam Kramer with Space.com. So I have one question for SpaceX and then another for NASA. And I'm wondering, for Elon, I think, were the multiple delays challenging? I mean, was this kind of a test for the team, just having to push it back and push it back and push it back? And then for NASA, I'm curious, does this mean that the orbital launch is officially put off until June? Thanks.
Well, I mean, from the SpaceX side of it, there were a fair bit of new things with this rocket and with the Dragon avionics. This was actually quite a substantial revision of Dragon avionics, for example, and new software that accompanied it. And of course, the rocket had the landing legs and improved nitrogen thrusters and a few other things. So it was definitely not our. In the future, we want to try to get to launching exactly on time without any delays, and definitely get away from having delays. That's not our aspiration. But I think the team did do a great job of responding to the various issues, and I'm certainly very proud of what they've done.
Yeah, I think another thing to consider is space station is a pretty tough thing to do the rendezvous with when we look at all the constraints, because we had, progress flights coming up. We've got some EVA activities coming up pretty quickly. We've got the Soyuz landing and Soyuz launch cycle coming up. And then we have to watch the Dragon landing, and the Dragon landing has to be, again, set by orbital mechanics and where space station is and when you undock and where you put the Dragon with respect to the coast of California. That's another constraint. So you put all those together, and that makes space station flights even tougher from a manifesting standpoint. So it's not only the hardware and the weather and the normal things with the rocket, but then you've got all these unique phasing things that play in, and that makes it a pretty tough scenario to get a good launch together and make it work. So the team, again, working last night to protect today's option was tremendously important to us. That really worked out well. To your question about orbital, because I'm superstitious, we'll probably continue to ask orbital to keep preparing for May 6th until we get Dragon safely attached to station and berthed. But once Dragon becomes safely attached and berthed on Sunday, then we'll release the orbital team. But I think until then, we'll ask orbital still protect till May, and then after that berthing occurs, we'll then release the orbital team and let them move into the June timeframe.
Our next question on the phone is from Joseph Abbott.
Joseph Abbott, Waco Tribune Herald. First, I was going to ask if you have a date set now for the Orbcomm launch coming up, and I was also wanting to know if you could tell me how many more tests on the F9 development vehicle at McGregor before it moves on to Spaceport America in New Mexico. Sure. For Elon.
Sure. I'll answer that question, then I'm going to have to jump off the call. So let's see. So for the Orbcomm launch is expected to happen in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we want to obviously make sure we review carefully the data from this launch, because although everything went fine, but we always review the data to see if there were any near miss issues that need to be looked into and corrected. We don't know of anything yet, but we want to make sure of that. And then regarding the F9R, we're going to have we're going to keep doing tests at our McGregor test site near Waco with the F9R stage. So what we have at McGregor is the F9R, what's called F9R Dev 1, which is sort of Development Unit 1. There's Dev 2, and so one of those will be at McGregor, one of them will be at Spaceport America in New Mexico. And so anything we can test at a relatively low altitude, so below around 10,000 feet, we'll continue to do in McGregor, and then the high altitude stuff where it's going exo-atmospheric and going to sort of 300,000 feet plus and that kind of thing, we'll be doing in Mexico, because we just need a much bigger clear area. But I would expect those tests to be. We'll continue refining the technology over time, because we had put the question that was asked earlier. Reusability only matters to the degree that it's rapid and complete. Otherwise, it's sort of reusability, but you don't get the equivalent economic benefit that has huge potential to open up space flight. All right, thanks for the question.
All right, Mr. Musk, thank you for being with us. We'll try one more time for Rand Simberg on the telephone. Rand, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, if Elon's still available, because it is to him. I was just wondering, I'm assuming that you're going to try another water landing. You're not going to attempt land on the next one. I guess the question is, did you get enough data to give you confidence that you can fly back to land, or are you going to try it in the water again? And how much of a setback is it that you still haven't actually recovered a stage to see how much wear you're actually getting on it?
Unfortunately, he had to hang up. I don't know, Hans, if you would be able to address the question or not.
I can, yeah. I think that the next vehicle is going to try a water landing again. And honestly, I think the data are at this point in time really what we are after. And that gives us the clues to make the any changes, or allows us to continue this development. So I would say we didn't, as I said earlier, we didn't really expect the stages to come back, or we had some hope, of course, but overall I think the data is much more important here.
Okay, we're back in the room. Jason.
Jason Ryan for spaceflightinsider.com. This question goes to Hans, and I have another one. While it's true you didn't get the landing you might have wanted, did you see anything in the telemetry data that said, okay, we're on the right track here, or perhaps maybe something that made you want to rethink something else on landing? Could you talk a bit about that?
So from what I saw, basically in the control room and on the video, it looked great. It looked like it's doing what it's supposed to do. However, there's data on top of that I haven't seen yet. They're either on the boat or on the airplane, and we need those data to come back first, and then put them together and see if you can get the full picture, basically from liftoff to re-entry and possibly as far as possible into landing. So.
And this was kind of off topic from today, but the other day, Gwen Shotwell was here, and the announcement was made that LC-39A would be used for Falcon Heavy, and that we expect to see the first launch in the first quarter of 2015. My question goes that, perhaps this has already been answered, but up until then, I believe the understanding was the first launch would occur out of Vandenberg. Is that now changed to where the first launch will take place in Kennedy instead of Vandenberg?
I think so, yes.
Okay, James.
James Dean, Florida Today. Hans, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify a couple of details. The boats, I understand, weren't able to get close so far today, but you are still trying to get out there and find the booster, or is there no point in doing that anymore?
It really depends on the sea state, and I heard that the sea state is really it's really pretty rough right now. I'm pretty sure if they think it's safe, then they will move towards the stage and take a look. Also, I don't know what the airplane saw. Those data and news basically come back in a couple hours.
And the source of the telemetry that you're talking about getting back, is that a NASA aircraft, or where's that coming from?
No, this is a SpaceX airplane.
Well, just curious of the detail. What was flying up there? Because NASA was also tracking it, Gerst, as well. I'm just curious what was up there tracking. Yeah.
We were going to have a P3 go fly, and our intent was to take a look at the supersonic thruster firings that would occur, and we wanted the data because that's applicable to Mars entry, descent, and landing. We were unable to fly the aircraft because of icing conditions, so we did not fly our P3 aircraft. So it was a SpaceX aircraft that captured telemetry that Hans is talking about. So we didn't get a chance to fly our aircraft.
Okay. And data so far, did it show, or would it have shown if the landing legs did deploy, or is that something that would come later?
That's typically, so the data we have right now at this hour basically is the data that we got here from Tel 4 from the range, and the range it goes over the horizon basically for the range before that.
Bill.
Bill Harwood for Mr. Gerstenmaier. Just, can you clarify for me the provisioning situation on station and the skip cycle and how all that plays out? I was confused the other day when Mr. Seferdini was talking to us about where your marks are out there for getting stuff up.
Yeah, I think the way if we take no consumables resupply for a period of time, I think we run into a skip cycle number, which is like 45 days before we run out of critical consumables. And I think food is one of the things that comes in. It's roughly in the July timeframe, July, August of this summer. When we get SpaceX on board, that'll push that date into the fall. When we get Orbital on board, it'll even push it further to the left.
But July is when that 45 thing would start.
Yeah, it starts. So then that's kind of, the way we do that is we want to prepare if we have to bring the crew home because we're running out of supplies, right? That's the beginning of the clock that says we start preparing. So we actually draw a line. It's like the low fuel light on your car, right? You still got quite a ways to drive, but it's a warning that you are, and that's the July date.
Hi, Jared Hayworth. I'm a guest of NASA Social, and I'm a photographer with WeHadToday.com. This is a question for Hans. Looking down the road a little bit to the reusable first stage, once the landing legs have been proven, you're ready to start landing on land again. Where are you going to actually set these stages down? And this particularly thinking about something like a Falcon Heavy reusable, where you have up to 3 stages coming back home.
That's going to be a particular challenge. That's true. We're looking right now at landing sites. We had a couple. But we need to still evaluate exactly what's the best landing site here at the Cape, or at the Cape basically.
So you are still thinking. Sorry, you are still thinking somewhere here along the East Coast, somewhere on the Florida coastline,
Yes.
perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, I think we'll take one more question and wrap it up. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Ian Cluft from the NASA Social Group and AirlineReporter.com. The question for SpaceX, actually related to Jared's question, when you're bringing stages back, have plans been started on how much airspace and ground area will have to be cleared for these tests? And then how much will that come down when it gets to operational?
So that's basically a question to range safety. We basically providing data for the analysis, and then range safety will tell us how much space we need. We believe it's about the same as what you need for a rocket going out. Coming back is a particular challenge, but at the same time, this stage is pretty empty. So it's a safe stage to come back, basically.
Okay. Do you have any closing remarks?
Again, I would just say, congratulations to SpaceX on just a wonderful day today and tremendous preparation. It's also fun for me to be down here in Florida. I got to go over and see Orion get it in testing over in the ONC building. They did their first sine wave sweep of the multi-vibration test of the Orion capsule, and they had just completed all their avionics testing and power up. So it's pretty exciting to see that vehicle come together, that first beyond low Earth orbit vehicle over in the ONC building. And if you get a chance, you need to go over and see the vehicle as it goes through these next couple of stages over the next couple of months, getting ready for the December launch. So heat shield addition and putting it on top of the service module and looking at a launch aboard system, it's a pretty amazing spacecraft. And it's fun for me as an engineer to get a chance to go see hardware again and get out of Washington. So this is an ultimately great visit for me down here. I got to see our hardware beyond low Earth orbit, and then I got to see a launch. So it's a double win and a great weekend and a great start to the Easter holiday. So thanks to the KSC team again and to the SpaceX team.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for me, I'm really happy that Dragon is safe in orbit and on its way to the station. I'm really looking forward to berthing at the station and again also a great Easter weekend.
All right. Thank you, Hans. The next planned televised event for SpaceX 3 is the Grapple on Sunday morning at about 7:14 a.m. with NASA television coverage beginning at 5:45 a.m. Between now and then, you can keep track of all the activities that are happening by going to the NASA website at www.nasa.gov/SpaceX, and we'll conclude with a replay of today's Falcon 9 and Dragon launch. Thank you all very much.
9, 8, 7, 6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon. SpaceX 3 is underway. An American commercial spacecraft launching from U.S. soil makes a special delivery of new science and technology to the International Space Station.
First stage propulsion is nominal.